Hello, and welcome to the Daily English Lab podcast. I'm absolutely thrilled to have you here with me today because we're going to explore a fundamental topic that is crucial for your English learning journey: inputs and outputs. These two elements are the backbone of improving your ability to speak and understand English more effectively. In this episode, I'll walk you through exactly how they work and why they are so powerful in the process of mastering English. You might be wondering, what are inputs and outputs, and why do they matter for my English learning? Don't worry. I'm here to explain everything in a simple and easy-to-understand manner. Whether you are just starting your English learning journey or have been at it for a while, this episode will help you grasp how to train your brain to think in English naturally. Reflecting on language learning before we dive into the specifics, let's take a moment to reflect on how you learned your first language as a child. Think back. Did you begin by studying grammar rules? Did you spend hours memorizing lengthy lists of vocabulary? Most likely, the answer is no. Instead, you absorbed the language by listening to the people around you. You heard your parents talking, watched their interactions, and gradually began to understand the nuances of the language. Then, one day, you spoke your first words. That's the immense power of input. It fills your mind with language. When you finally start speaking, that's your output, utilizing everything you've absorbed. Now, imagine if you could apply this same natural method to your English learning. What if acquiring English could be as smooth and intuitive as learning your first language? Well, the good news is that it can be. Today, I'm going to show you exactly how to make that a reality. The common struggle many English learners feel stuck in their journey. They watch videos, read books, and listen to English speakers, but when it comes time to speak, they feel nervous or unsure of what to say. If this sounds familiar to you, then you're in the right place. This episode is designed to help you break free from that struggle by understanding how to balance input and output in a way that genuinely improves your fluency. That it's important to remember that we don't just learn English to pass an exam. We learn it to communicate effectively, express our thoughts and feelings, and connect with others on a deeper level. I want to help you do that with confidence. What to expect in today's episode. So, what can you expect from today's episode? Here's a quick overview of what we'll cover. Understanding input. What is it, and why are listening and reading foundational to language learning? Understanding output. How do speaking and writing contribute to fluency? Balancing input and output. How to ensure you not only comprehend English, but can also use it effectively in real-life situations. Common mistakes. Identify common pitfalls that may slow down your progress and how to avoid them. Practical tips. Actionable strategies you can implement today to speed up your English learning. Does that sound intriguing? I promise that by the end of this episode, you will have a clear strategy for learning English that truly works. So stay with me until the end. You won't want to miss these powerful techniques. If you're serious about enhancing your English skills, this episode could be a game changer for you. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the Daily English Lab podcast to ensure you never miss an episode. Let's dive in. Understanding inputs. Before we delve into the specifics of English inputs, let's refer to the Cambridge Dictionary for a definition of input. According to the Cambridge Dictionary, input refers to something, such as energy, money, or information, that is fed into a system, organization, or machine to enable it to operate effectively. In the context of language learning, input means the English language that you receive and absorb, primarily through listening and reading. It is the information that enters your brain and helps you understand the language before you can use it in speaking or writing. Example of input in language learning. Let's consider a practical example of input in language learning. Picture a child who is learning their first language. Before they begin to speak, they spend months listening to their parents, observing their expressions, and repeatedly hearing words. Over time, their brains collect enough input, and one day they start saying their first words, like mama or dog. The same process occurs when learning English as a second language. If you dedicate time to listen to English podcasts, watch movies, and read books, your brain will store new words, phrases, and grammatical structures. Later, when it's time for you to speak, you will naturally draw upon what you have learned. For instance, let's take Sarah as an example. Sarah is eager to improve her English skills. Every day, she listens to an English podcast for about 20 minutes and reads a short news article. Initially, she struggles to understand everything, but over time, her brain absorbs new vocabulary and phrases. After just a few months, she notices that she can comprehend conversations more easily and even use some of the expressions she has encountered in her own speaking. Input is the essential first step to achieving fluency. The more English you listen to and read, the easier it becomes to think, speak, and write naturally. So make it a daily habit to expose yourself to English. What are English inputs? Now that we understand the importance of input, let's focus on the first part, input. This is where your language learning journey begins. Without input, there can be no output. But what exactly qualifies as input, and why is it so important? Definition of inputs in simple terms. Input refers to any English content that you take in. This includes everything you hear and read in English. Whenever you listen to an English conversation, watch a movie, or read a book, your brain collects words, phrases, and sentence structures. This process is crucial because before you can speak or write in English output, you first need to understand it. Think about how babies acquire their first language. They don't speak immediately. They listen to their surroundings, observe their parents, and gradually grasp the meanings of various words. After months or even years of listening, they finally begin to speak. The same principle applies to learning English as a second language. You need substantial input before you can produce meaningful output. Why input is the foundation of language learning? Let's take a moment to consider an analogy. Imagine trying to build a house without bricks. It sounds impossible, right? The same principle applies to learning English. Input acts as the bricks. It provides you with the materials necessary to construct sentences, express thoughts, and communicate naturally. Many English learners struggle because they don't receive enough input. They may spend excessive time on grammar exercises or memorizing vocabulary without actually hearing or seeing those words used in real conversations. This can lead to common challenges to achieving fluency as you embark on your journey to fluency. It's important to recognize that many learners encounter common obstacles that can impede their progress. Instead of contemplating grammar understanding these challenges, you will naturally form correct sentences, overcoming just them. As native speakers do. In this segment, we will discuss four prevalent issues as the foundation of fluency and how to effectively expose yourself to the language, fear of making mistakes. Your brain. One of the most significant barriers to fluency is the fear of making mistakes. Types of input. Many English learners feel shy, not all anxious when speaking because they are worried about two main types: pronunciation input and or using the wrong words. Both types are valuable. What if I sound silly? But understanding the difference will enable you to use them more effectively. However, input. Here's the truth. This involves background listening is a natural part of without full concentration. No one speaks a new language when you casually listen to or even native speakers make errors playing a podcast while cooking. Watching a movie with subtitles instead of viewing mistakes on the words, failures, or enjoying them English as valuable learning opportunities. This type of input every time you make a mistake because it keeps your brain exposed the more you practice English sounds, the fewer mistakes you will make. Even if you don't grasp every detail. Confidence over comes time. From speaking. Your ears become waiting to the natural flow of overthinking before making speaking. It easier to another common challenge is overthinking what to say before speaking. Relying solely on many learners strive to create a perfect sentence in their minds. You must also engage in active too much on grammar, active and vocabulary. This occurs by the time they're ready to speak. When you pay full attention to what you're listening to, the conversation may have already moved on. Active input means carefully listening to an English podcast and striving to express your ideas in a simple and English video without subtitles instead of translating from your native language. For instance, or reading an English book while looking up unfamiliar words. I want to express that the weather is pleasant today because it compels your brain to process and there are no clouds in the sky. When you actively listen, it's a beautiful day today. You notice patterns, keeping new vocabulary will alleviate the pressure and boost your confidence, which makes it easier to remember and utilize what you many learners during real conversations feel that their English isn't good enough learning, or that they will never be able to combine both passive and active. This negative thinking can hinder input helps you become familiar with participation in conversations, while active input enhances your understanding, practice, and new information. Real life something you excel at, how input improves cooking, language skills, playing a sport, to illustrate or using technology. When you first started, you were likely not an expert. Example, with time and practice, learning through listening, imagine you listen to an English podcast. The same principle applies commuting to work. The more you speak, you only the more self-assured you will become. But after several weeks, build your confidence. Your ears begin to recognize more vocabulary and phrases. Even if it's just you start understanding complete sentences to yourself in without English, having to translate them in your mind or record your voice. After a few months and listen to notice. The more you can answer simple questions in the more English comfortable you will feel. all thanks to your brain absorbing enough
One of the
input
most
to
straightforward
generate
reasons
responses
people struggle
naturally.
with fluency
Example
is
2.
that they simply
Learning through
don't
reading
practice
now,
speaking
consider a
enough.
scenario where
Many
you
learners
decide
devote
to read in
considerable
English.
time to
Short
reading,
story every
writing,
night before
and
bed.
listening.
At
But
first,
neglect to
you may
engage in
frequently
spoken
consult a
practice.
dictionary.
They might
But as you
think,
continue,
I'll start
you
speaking
begin
when I know enough
recognizing more
English.
words,
But this
and
mindset
comprehending
can be
sentences
detrimental.
faster.
Solution:
After several
speaking
months,
is a
you
skill,
find that your writing in
just
English has
like
improved
swimming
because
or
you've
playing the
witnessed
guitar.
how
You
words and
cannot
grammar
master it
are
by
used
merely
in
watching
real
videos
sentences.
or reading
Your writing
books.
becomes
You
more
have to
natural
actively
as your
engage in
brain has
conversation.
gathered ample input from your
How
reading
can you incorporate
experiences.
more
These
speaking
examples
practice into your
demonstrate how
routine?
consistent
Here are some
exposure
ideas.
to input,
Find a
whether
speaking
through
partner,
listening,
connect
or
with a
reading,
friend,
gradually
teacher, or
enhances
language
your
exchange
speaking
partner
and
to writing.
practice with.
Abilities.
Join online
How much
conversation
input
groups.
is
Many
necessary for
websites
progress?
A
A
common
facilitate
question many
connections
learners have
between
is,
English
how much
learners
input
worldwide.
do I need to improve?
Talk to yourself.
The
If
answer
you don't
varies
have
depending
anyone
on
to
how
converse
frequently
with,
and
practice
effectively
alone.
you engage
Describe
with
your
English.
surroundings.
However,
Talk about your
let's
day,
look at some estimates.
or share your thoughts
If you
out
listen to
loud.
30 minutes
Use
of
the
English
shadowing
every
technique.
day, you can
Listen
expect
to
to
native
see
speakers
improvements
and
in
repeat
about
what they
3 to
say,
6 months.
copying their
If you read
pronunciation
for
and
15
rhythm.
minutes daily,
The more you practice
your vocabulary
speaking,
and
the easier
sentence structure
it will
begin
become.
to enhance.
Fluency is
Within
not
a few
solely
months,
about
that if you
knowing
combine
English.
1 hour
It's
of
about
listening
using it
with 30
actively.
minutes of reading each day, you could reach a conversational level in approximately a year. While these figures aren't strict rules, they clearly indicate that the more input you acquire, the faster you will improve. To become fluent, aim for at least 1 hour of English. Input every day. Input acts as the fuel for your English learning journey. Without it, you won't have the necessary materials to speak and write with confidence. Transitioning to English outputs now that we've thoroughly discussed English input, let's shift our focus to outputs, the second half of the language learning equation. Output is just as crucial, as it involves using the English language through speaking and writing. Many learners tend to concentrate excessively on input while avoiding output due to nervousness or fear of making mistakes. However, without output, you cannot achieve fluency in English. Speaking and writing enable you to transform passive knowledge into active skills. Definition of outputs in simple terms. Output refers to the English that you produce through speaking and writing. There are two primary types of output. Speaking. This involves verbal communication in English, whether in conversations, answering questions, giving speeches, or even thinking out loud in English. Writing. This includes expressing thoughts through text, such as writing essays, emails, social media posts, or maintaining a personal journal in English. Think of output as a workout for your brain. Just as athletes train their muscles to gain strength, you need to practice speaking and writing too. Enhance your ability to use English naturally. Without output, you may understand the language well, but you might struggle to express yourself effectively when necessary. Why output is necessary for fluency? Consider the analogy of learning to swim. You might watch videos, read books about swimming techniques, and observe expert swimmers. But if you never step into the water, can you truly learn to swim? No. You must practice. The same principle applies to learning English. Fluency doesn't stem from merely listening and reading. It arises from actively using the language. Here's why output is vital. Memory enhancement. When you speak or write, you compel your brain to recall vocabulary and grammar rules, reinforcing your memory and making it easier to remember words. Confidence building. The more you utilize English, the more comfortable you become. Over time, you'll feel less nervous during real-life interactions. Identifying weaknesses. Speaking or writing reveals which words or grammar rules you struggle with, enabling you to focus on improving those areas. Thinking in English. Regular. Speaking and writing help your brain process ideas in English, reducing the need to translate from your native language. Many learners hesitate to speak because they fear making mistakes. But remember that mistakes are a natural part of learning. The more you practice, the better you will become. Types of output. Just like input, output can take different forms. There are two main types of output. Planned output. This involves preparing before using English. Examples include writing an essay for an exam, preparing a presentation for work or school, or drafting an email to a colleague. Planned output is beneficial for organizing your thoughts and honing your writing skills because it allows you time to focus on using correct grammar, new vocabulary, and clear sentence structures. A great way to practice planned output is by keeping a daily journal in English. Writing a few sentences each day about your thoughts or experiences can significantly enhance your ability to express yourself clearly. Spontaneous output. This occurs when you use English in real time without prior preparation. It includes casual conversations, answering questions in class, or speaking English while shopping or traveling. This type of output is essential for fluency because, in real life, you often don't have time to plan your words. Spontaneous speaking encourages you to think quickly in English, which helps you respond naturally. Initially, speaking without preparation may feel challenging. You might forget words or make mistakes. That's perfectly okay. The more you practice, the easier it will become. A great way to improve spontaneous speaking is by talking to yourself in English. For instance, while cooking, you might say, "Now I am cutting the vegetables. I need to boil the water." This exercise helps you practice forming sentences naturally, balancing input and output. Finding the right balance between input and output is essential for effective language learning. Some learners focus too heavily on input, listening and reading, while neglecting output, speaking and writing. Others may try to speak frequently, but lack sufficient input to improve quickly. A simple guideline for balance: aim for a guideline of 70% input and 30% output. Spend most of your time listening and reading, but remember to practice speaking and writing regularly. Here's how to implement this balance. Practice output daily. Dedicate time each day to speak or write in English, even if it's just for a few minutes. Use what you learn. If you encounter a new word or phrase, try to use it in conversation or include it in your writing. Think of language learning as a cycle. Input, listening, and reading allows you to absorb new vocabulary and grammar, while output, speaking and writing, helps you activate what you've learned, reinforcing your memory. The more you repeat this cycle, the faster you will improve. Practical examples of how output improves retention. Let's examine 2 examples to see how output enhances language skills. Example 1. Speaking practice. Meet Maria, who is learning English. She listens to podcasts daily but never practices speaking. One day, she attempts to have a conversation in English and struggles to find the right words. This experience leads her to realize that just listening isn't sufficient. She needs to practice speaking. So, Maria begins speaking English for 10 minutes every day. She talks to herself, records her voice, and practices conversations with friends. After a few months, Maria feels more confident, and speaking becomes noticeably easier for her. Example 2. Writing practice. Now, let's consider John, who wants to improve his English writing skills. Initially, he struggles to form sentences and finds his grammar lacking. However, he decides to write one short paragraph every day about his life. He also seeks feedback from a teacher who corrects his mistakes. After 3 months, John notices that his writing is clearer and more natural. He remembers grammar rules more easily because he has repeatedly used them in his writing. These examples illustrate that actively using English is the key to improvement. The more you practice, the better your brain becomes at naturally forming sentences, combining input and output effectively. Now that we've covered both English input and output, the next question is, how do we balance them effectively? Some learners spend too much time listening and reading, but rarely speak or write. Others may focus on speaking a lot, but don't get enough listening and reading practice. Creating a daily routine. A well-structured English learning routine should include both input and output every day. Here's how you can organize your practice. Start with input. Begin your day by listening to an English podcast or reading a short article. This helps you absorb new vocabulary and sentence structures. Transition to output. After listening or reading, try to speak about what you learned or write a brief summary. This activates your understanding of the material. Mix short and long sessions. You don't have to spend hours studying. Even short 5 to 10-minute sessions of speaking and writing can be effective if done consistently. Make it enjoyable. Choose topics that interest you. If you love sports, listen to sports podcasts in English. If you enjoy cooking, read English recipes and try to describe them in English. Example schedules for different learners. Everyone has a unique lifestyle. So let's explore how students, workers, and busy individuals can balance input and output in their daily routines. Routine for students. Students typically have more time to focus on English, so they can incorporate structured learning into their schedules. Morning input. Listen to an English podcast for 15 minutes while getting ready for school. Afternoon output. After classes, write a short paragraph about what you learned that day. Evening input and output. Watch a TV show in English for 30 minutes and practice repeating some sentences aloud to enhance your pronunciation. Extra tip: consider joining an English conversation club or finding a language partner for regular speaking practice. Routine for workers often have busy schedules but can still practice English during their free time. Morning input: listen to an audiobook or podcast on your commute for about 20 minutes. Lunch break output: write a short email or message in English to practice your writing skills. Evening input and output: watch an English video for 20 minutes. Then summarize it aloud in your own words. Extra tip: if you work in an English-speaking environment, take the opportunity to converse in English with your colleagues whenever possible. Routine for busy people: even if your schedule is tight, you can still practice English in small increments. Morning input: read an English quote or news headline for 5 minutes. Throughout the day, think in English while performing daily tasks. For example, say to yourself, "Now I am making coffee." Evening output: record a 1-minute voice message in English about your day. Extra tip: use English learning apps during short breaks or while waiting in line. Improving fluency with a mix of both. To achieve fluency, you need both input and output working together. Here are some practical strategies to enhance your fluency. Shadowing: listen to a sentence and repeat it immediately. This practice improves your pronunciation and fluency. Speaking after reading: after reading an article, explain it in your own words. This exercise trains your brain to form sentences quickly. Writing and speaking together: write a short story and then read it out loud. This reinforces sentence structure and boosts your speaking confidence. The 1-to-1 rule: for every 10 minutes of listening or reading, aim to speak or write for at least 10 minutes. This ensures you're not just absorbing information, but also producing English. The importance of consistency. Consistency is the secret ingredient to fluency. Even dedicating 15 to 30 minutes each day is more beneficial than cramming for 3 hours once a week. Why is this the case? Language learning is akin to building a habit. When you practice daily, your brain retains information more effectively. Let's consider 2 learners. Anna practices English for 15 minutes each day. She listens to short podcasts, writes simple sentences, and speaks a little each day. John, on the other hand, studies English once a week for 3 hours but doesn't practice in between. After 3 months, Anna has significantly improved her fluency because she engages with English daily, while John struggles to remember what he learned during his study sessions. Key takeaways: daily practice is key. Small daily practices are more potent than irregular long study sessions. A balanced routine: a perfect English learning routine includes both listening and reading for input, as well as speaking and writing for output. Enjoy the process. Choose fun and interesting topics to keep yourself motivated. Final thoughts as we wrap up today's episode: I encourage you to take action. Knowledge is powerful, but it only becomes useful when applied. If you continue listening to podcasts, watching videos, and reading books without practicing speaking or writing, your progress will be slow. However, if you create a simple plan and start practicing a little every day, you'll witness substantial improvements over time. It's perfectly okay to make mistakes. Each mistake is a step closer to fluency. Stay consistent. Even 10 to 15 minutes of practice each day can lead to remarkable progress. Make learning enjoyable by engaging with topics that interest you and challenge yourself positively. Resources for further learning if you're eager to continue improving. Here are some valuable resources to assist you. Podcasts and YouTube channels. Listen to English learning podcasts like this one and follow channels that focus on clear English. Books and articles. Read simple books, news websites, or blogs in English. If you're a beginner, try graded readers, flashcard apps. Utilize apps like Anki or Quizlet to help you remember new words more easily. Daily writing and speaking practice. Keep a journal in English or record yourself speaking for a few minutes daily. Before we conclude, I invite you to take the next step in your learning journey. If you found this podcast helpful, please subscribe to the Daily English Lab podcast so you never miss new episodes. Like this episode and share it with other English learners who may benefit from our discussions. Leave a comment and share your biggest takeaway from today's episode. What is one action you will take today to elevate your English skills? Challenge yourself right now. Create a simple plan for how you will practice both input and output this week. Write it down and start today. You have all the tools you need to elevate your English to the next level. Remember, fluency isn't about perfection. It's about communication and gradual improvement. Keep going, keep practicing, and most importantly, believe in yourself. Thank you for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode of the Daily English Lab podcast. Your journey to fluency starts now. Let's embark on this adventure together.